Ranking the Saw movies from my least favorite to my most favorite and coming in dead last is Spiral. I don't hate this movie, it just doesn't fit. Like, the idea of a copycat killer to me was kind of lame. They didn't use Jigsaw's voice. This one didn't do it for me. From here on out, I really enjoy every single movie in the Saw franchise, but I do not think that Jigsaw is as good as Saw 1 through 7 or Saw X. So from here to number 1, I love every single movie, and most of them are neck and neck, basically. So next up, I have Saw 2. A lot of people usually tell me that Saw 2 is probably in their top 3. I absolutely love Saw 2, but I just love the other Saws more. Next up, I have Saw 3. Saw 3, I believe, has some of the most gruesome traps in the whole franchise. The pig trap, the rack, this one is fucking brutal. Next up, I have Saw 6, and I really just like the game in this one. Like, this is the one with the guy who owns the insurance company and all of his employees are in the trap. And I just really love that dynamic and how it ends. And then on the other end of it, how they're finding out more about Detective Hoffman and how his cover gets fully fucking blown in this movie. Next up, I have Saw 5. I love the showdown between Strahm and Hoffman in this movie. Peter Strahm deserved better. Next up, I have Saw 4. I love Detective Rigg. I love the traps in this movie. This is where we see the end of our Detective Matthews saga. Next up, I have Saw 7, Saw 3D, Saw the Final Chapter, whatever you want to call it. So my rankings between Saw 4 and Saw 2, they were basically all neck and neck. But my top 3 are without a doubt my top 3. I love Saw 7 because of how everything unfolds and how the final story comes together. The return of Dr. Gordon, the showdown between him and Hoffman, the ending of Jill Tuck, the Bobby Dagan saga. Spoilers ahead, obviously, if you haven't gotten that yet. But this movie, like, that realization when you understand that Dr. Gordon has been in on it the whole time, it just makes everything make so much sense and come together so well. They've come out with 3 new Saw movies since this movie came out, but none of them have ever followed up on what happened to Hoffman. And I need that. I need more of the story between him and Gordon. So Saw 7 was always my number 2, but then I saw Saw X. Again, I don't think Jigsaw and Spiral were like nearly at the caliber of the other Saw movies. So I frankly wasn't expecting a whole lot out of this movie, and it completely revitalized my love for the Saw franchise. I've always loved Saw, but again, with those last 2 movies, I thought it was just kind of done and over with. But this movie was John Kramer's opus. It was him at his peak. I love everything about this movie. And it definitely had the most brutal traps, I think, of any Saw movie by far. But number 1 for me is always going to be the original Saw. Some people probably will disagree with this, but this movie to me changed the face of horror as we know it. The plot twist is just unmatched, and this movie as a whole is so iconic to me.